In my past life, I never had a single door that could truly hold anyone back. This time, I've built myself a bunker that can truly withstand the apocalypse. That infected lingers outside for a long while. Eventually it seems to lose interest and slowly wanders out of camera range. Over the following days, more and more infected are drawn in by heat sources and the low hum of machinery. Some ram against the door. Some linger near the outer defensive netting. Some wander around the entrance, making sounds sharp and grating, like someone dragging something jagged slowly back and forth across the door. I don't shut off the monitors, and I don't fully mute the sound either, because I have to get used to it, this indifference. It won't grow any quieter just because I'm afraid. I live by a strict daily routine. I wake up at 7 every morning, check the power, check the fuel, check the water cycling system, check the air filtration, log the outdoor temperature and the movement patterns of the infected, then eat, exercise, organize the storage bay, and patrol all 3 underground levels. In the first few days, I can barely sleep soundly. The faintest sound in the middle of the night jolts me awake instantly, and I stare at the monitors for a long time. Sometimes I dream I'm back in my past life, dreaming of Vivian opening that door, dreaming of Derek storming in with a crowd behind him. When I wake, I sit in the darkness for a long while, until I've confirmed all 3 blast doors are locked tight, that the power is running normally, before I let myself lie back down. Security, it turns out, isn't something that just appears once you have enough supplies. It has to be earned day by day, through confirmation, confirming the door is still there, the food is still there, confirming no one will ever push me out into the cold again. On day 10, I plant the first batch of vegetables on basement level 3. Lettuce, scallions, potatoes, a few pots of tomatoes. As I press the seeds into the growing trays, my hand pauses for a long moment. In my past life, through 6 months of apocalypse, I barely saw a single true patch of green. Every edible leaf had long since been stripped away by desperate hands. Even the grass in the neighborhood flower beds had been dug up and boiled for food. Back then, a single fresh leaf was rarer than gold, so when the very first sprout of tender green pokes up from the growing tray, I stand under the grow light and stare at it for a long time. It's tiny, small enough to be crushed by a single fingertip, but in a world where even a cup of hot water can save a life, this small patch of green brings me more comfort than an entire warehouse of canned goods. Canned food will eventually run out, fuel will eventually burn away, but as long as seeds can still sprout, this place is more than just a shelter. It's somewhere I can truly go on living. A month and a half later, the number of survivors outside starts to dwindle. At first, there were still people dragging injured legs past the entrance. Some collapsed at the door crying, some pleading through the camera for a single scrap of food. Over time, those voices grow rarer and rarer. Not because they've stopped wanting to ask, but because fewer and fewer people are even able to make it this far anymore. Late one night, the external monitor picks up an old man, a battered medical kit strapped to his back, slipping and stumbling his way to the mall's entrance. He doesn't pound on the door. He doesn't curse me. He doesn't beg to be let in. He simply leans against the doorframe and pulls a piece of cardboard from inside his coat, stained with dried blood, a few shaky lines scrawled across it. I am a doctor, not infected. I can treat the sick. I only ask for a sip of hot water. I stare at the monitor for a long time. I recognize that face. In my past life, while searching for fever medicine for Vivian, I once ran into him in an abandoned clinic. By then, the clinic had already been picked clean by scavengers. I was on the verge of giving up hope, but he pulled the last 2 fever pills from a hidden compartment in his medical kit and gave them to me. His hands trembled from the cold. The pills were wrapped in a thin scrap of paper, its edges worn soft from handling. I stood there, stunned. What about you? I'm old, I get through one day at a time. You're young, save whoever you can, however many that turns out to be. Those 2 pills ended up saving Vivian's life, but she never once knew they'd been rationed out from the dwindling life of a man who was barely holding on himself. I switch on the outdoor speaker and ask if he's had any direct contact with blood. The old man lifts his head, his voice hoarse, barely audible. No direct contact, frostbite on my arm but no dark patches. I don't open the door right away. Instead, I activate the outer buffer zone. The first door opens just enough, wide enough for exactly one person. The moment he steps through, the first door seals shut behind him. Then comes snow removal, an airlock shower, disinfectant spray, and containment of his outer layers of clothing. A disposable quarantine suit and spare padded clothes are provided, followed by a temperature scan and wound inspection. He spends a full 72 hours in the outer buffer zone. Throughout that time, I only pass him water, ration bars, and basic medicine through the delivery slot. On the 3rd night, once I've confirmed no signs of infection, no fever, no aggressive behavior, I finally allow him into the quarantine room on basement level 1. When he first sees me, he doesn't ask whether he'll be allowed to stay. Instead, he glances toward the medical bay, asking quietly, "Do you have any usable medicine here?" I look at him. He gives a wry smile. Don't get me wrong, I'm a doctor. Whenever I see medicine, I can't help thinking about patients first. I watch his stooped, weathered back staying silent for a long while. This world can turn plenty of people into monsters, but some still remember who they used to be. From that day on, I stopped shutting everyone out on principle. But every time that door opens, there are rules. No exceptions. Later, I take in a pair of siblings. When the boy was chased by the infected all the way to the edge of the mall, already on the verge of collapse himself, he still held his sister tight against his chest, shielding her. Knocking on the door, he says just one thing. Save my sister. I don't have to come in. I let them into the buffer zone for quarantine. 72 hours later, both siblings are alive. When the boy wakes, he tries to drop to his knees in front of me. I stop him. The third person to arrive is the very man who, before the apocalypse, warned me to be careful during construction, the repairman. By the time he arrives, one of his legs has almost completely lost feeling. He speaks to me through the speaker. Boss, I won't cause any trouble. All I've got is this set of repair tools. If you take me in, I'll fix your pipes and your wiring for as long as you need. If you won't, just point me towards somewhere I can wait out this storm. That's fine too. I stay silent for a long while, then finally let him into the buffer zone. It takes the old doctor 3 days to save the man's leg. After cleaning the wound, the repairman spends a full 2 weeks recovering in the quarantine room before he can stand on his own again. Once he's recovered, he helps me reinforce several sections of the outer piping, and helps me convert a backup maintenance passage as well. From that point forward, I'm no longer the only one in this bunker. And that same day, the rules are formally set in stone. First, anyone entering the living quarters must first complete a 72-hour quarantine. Second, all supplies must be registered and shared collectively, no private hoarding. Third, no one may approach the control room or the power room without authorization. Fourth, no one may incite unrest, break the rules, or open any door without authorization. Violators are expelled immediately. Fifth, the bunker can save lives, but it will never risk everyone's life just to save one person. I post these rules in the most visible spot at the basement level 1 entrance. The old doctor reads them and offers only one comment. Strict rules are a good thing. In lawless times, it's the absence of rules that gets people killed. 2 months later, the city has lost every trace of its former self. High-rises stand buried under ice, streets vanish beneath snow, malls, hospitals, schools, all of them have become haunts for the infected. But the bunker, meanwhile, has settled into steady stability. The old doctor organizes the medical bay, sorting medicine by use and expiration date. The boy takes charge of monitoring the outer cameras, while his sister helps water plants in the grow room. The repairman joins me in methodically inspecting the drainage systems, the walls, and the backup wiring. This underground mall is finally more than just my own personal shelter. It's starting to feel like a place where people can actually live, long-term. Now and then, survivors still pass by the underground mall. Some beg for help, some hurl insults, some try to pry the door open, and some weep outside, confessing their regrets, admitting they once robbed others and only now finally understand what it feels like to have hope stripped away. Half a year later, the relentless deep freeze storms finally begin to ease. The sky remains a dull gray, the sun a faded copper coin hanging behind thick layers of cloud. The infected haven't vanished, but the survivors who remain have already begun rebuilding some sense of order. A handful of survivor outposts start appearing along the city's edges, people using abandoned malls as barricades, sheltering from the cold in underground parking garages, some even lighting fires again, clearing paths through the snow, scavenging for anything still usable. I don't join any of these outposts, and I don't throw open the mall's doors to take everyone in either. This bunker is a lesson I paid for with my own life. I can offer a portion of food to the innocent, a bottle of water to a child on the edge of collapse, and I can let those who truly follow the rules shelter one night from the storm in the outer buffer zone. But behind that door, the living quarters, the power room, the storage bay, that will never open casually to outsiders because I understand this clearly. In this world, kindness can exist, but it must have limits. Over the course of that year, I've watched too many people kneel outside this door in tears, watched too many turn on each other over half a bag of rice. I've watched people abandon those closest to them to save themselves, and watched others go hungry rather than take the last bite of food from their own family. This world magnifies greed in people, but it also pushes the few remaining sparks of genuine kindness into the sharpest possible focus. A year later, I stand in the control room of the underground mall facing a full wall of monitor screens. The city on those screens is still buried under ice. Abandoned high-rises standing silent in the storm. The occasional infected still shuffling slowly past a street corner. But I'm no longer afraid. Because behind me stands a generator running steady and strong, living quarters glowing with warm light, and a grow room lush with green growing vegetables. In my past life, I was the one shoved out into the cold. This time, I'm the one standing inside. 3 blast doors lock behind me, one after another. The key is in my hand. And this time, my life is